So in our previous class, we were discussing that when a aspirant is making spiritual progress, he begins initially with rituals. But as he progresses in spiritual life, the rituals become less and less. They get less and less important in the aspirant's life. And they just drop off naturally. It's not that one has to give up the rituals, but as soon as a spiritual aspirant becomes more and more indrawn, more and more he goes towards the subtle aspects of spirituality. He gives up slowly, gives less importance to rituals like worship, japa, and even the worldly activities drop off. So Sri Ramakrishna said, as if you remember in our previous class we discussed, that in the beginning of spiritual life one is very active, but as a man advances towards God, the outer display of actions, the prayers that he does, the devotional songs that he sings, the pujas and all the other rituals, so much so that even singing his names and glories they cease. The person becomes quiet. And that's why Sri Ramakrishna tells Shivnath, he just gives an example. Sri Ramakrishna was full of humor, you see. So he gave a wonderful example that before you arrived at the meeting, people talked a great deal about your good name, qualities, and so on. But you see, as soon as you arrived, all that stopped. Now everybody takes joy at the sight of you and says, "Oh, here is Shivnath Babu." All other talk about you has stopped. So what he wanted to convey is, till we don't have a vision of God, or till we are not feeling ourselves close to God's presence, God, or not feeling his presence, then we are busy with his name, taking his name, singing his hymns, doing other rituals, doing puja, and many things. These activities should decrease according to Sri Ramakrishna as you progress in spiritual life. These activities slowly drop off. The most important thing here is that they should drop off themselves. It's not that we drop off as we drop hot potatoes. It's not like that. So Sri Ramakrishna says there's a natural way. In a very natural way, Sri Ramakrishna says these things will drop off. And then he gives his own example. After this state of mind, I mean, after he entered Samadhi and started getting higher spiritual experiences, he found that Mother made it almost impossible for him to continue his puja. He noticed that at the time of offering Ganges water to the deities, the when we do achmana, we do take water in our palm and offer it. But then his hands were not closing, as it were the Divine Mother was suggesting, no, you don't need to do all this anymore. And the water was trickling through his fingers. He could not retain the water in his palm. He was not capable of doing any sadhana or ritual, the formal rituals which are normally done during upasana or puja. Then he asked Haladari, brother, what has happened? Haladari told me that it is called the fingers of hand remaining apart. So there is a word for that. Galita hasta. In Bengali, the word used is Galita hasta. Means in that state of mind, the spiritual aspirant cannot join the fingers. When we grab certain thing, when we are attached to certain things, we grab it. They say in Hindi, they say mutti band karke, you try to grab everything in your palm with a tight grip. So even in the West it is used that we have a tight grip over all the things that we possess. But Prakriti is, as you progress, the grip becomes loose. That means you develop more and more Vairagya towards gross things. And you lose your attachment to all the rituals. So you don't have to, the fingers automatically in a highly spiritually evolved spiritual aspirant, the Galita Hasta is the process whereby the fingers of the hand, they cannot be together, which is required if you want to carry some water for tarpana or for any other offering in your hand. So he says, you have attained that state of Galitasta, Aludari told him. It is there in the scriptures. So after the vision of God, such actions, such ordinary trivial actions like doing the ritualistic puja and offering water to the deities drop off. That is known as tarpana. Tarpana means offering sacred water at the feet of the Lord or to the Lord. So giving another example, we discussed this, it is on page 112, that a group was singing hymns. In the group who were singing hymns, the first one in that group, normally all these Vaishnava Kirtans, they sing in a chorus, but there is somebody who leads. And then as soon as he starts singing, there are certain verses which are repeated in chorus. So the song, of course it is a Bengali song, but here the English translation says in the gospel, Nita is my mad elephant. I mean, he has become intoxicated by the divine love. So it is to be understood in a symbolic way. It's not that he has become like a mad elephant, but because of his intoxication while listening to the kirtan, listening to the Lord's name, Nita is, he says, Nita is my mad elephant. But as the mood deepens, the entire phrase or entire sentences of the song, verses, they don't come out of the mouth. One becomes silent and one simply utters hati hati or elephant elephant. Then it is only elephant, only one word. And lastly, he cannot even complete the word elephant because he's so he has gone into Bhav Samadhi, and the person who really sees a vision, singing these hymns, he gets a spiritual experience. He is unable to use or speak or uh, express these things in words. So that is what happens. So that is how Sri Ramakrishna is explaining that as the spiritual experience deepens, its outward manifestations become less and less. People normally would like to make a show of what they are doing. So there are so many pujas, elaborate rituals for hours together. People conduct all these pujas and all. But as one's love for the Lord deepens, one feels the presence of the Lord. Then Sri Ramakrishna says that even the normal hymns that we utter, not only puja rituals, but the hymns that are uttered along with that, they also are reduced, and slowly you will find that most of these external rituals or external activities, by the grace of God, they become less and less, and there's more focus in the meditative aspect of spiritual life, where you come, as it were, with face to face with God. So Mahatma Gandhi, when he wrote a foreword to the wonderful life of Sri Ramakrishna, he said, Sri Ramakrishna's religion enables you to see God face to face. So what did he mean by seeing God face to face? To have a direct experience of God. So at that state, people don't have the necessity of doing all the Bahya Puja or the external rituals. So then Sri Ramakrishna gives another example to convey this idea. He uses a lot of humor in conveying certain ideas because he knows people are, if they explain it in a very intellectual or a scholarly way, people will get bored. So he used to tell simple parables, simple examples from our day-to-day life, and sometimes it would used to be very humorous as well. But it had a deeper meaning. So you will find Sri Ramakrishna is giving another example to show how external activity, external rituals become less and less as you progress in spirituality. Then he says, for example, there is a feast given to Brahmins. Normally in Bengal and all other places, whenever there is an auspicious occasion, a feast is given after the rituals are over, and normally Brahmins are invited, those who participate in the puja, or even other Brahmins are invited, and people believe that will get some merit if we feed Brahmins. So in the beginning, when all the Brahmins were invited, Sri Ramakrishna says a typical feast in Bengal, you will find there's lot of noise, lot of activity. People are serving, somebody saying, serve me this, and the leaf plates are put in front of them. But once the leaf plates are put, the noise slowly becomes less and less. Only occasionally, because they know now the food will come, they will be focusing more on the food rather than talking and gossiping. But now and then some people will be making some noises like bring some luchis, bring this, bring that. And when they begin eating luchis and vegetables, the first course in the meal, then you will find 75%, Sri Ramakrishna says, of the noise subsides. Because now they are so busy, all the items are slowly increasing in their plate. If they continue to speak, they'll not be able to finish eating. So everybody becomes almost silent, but still some people ask for certain things. So a little noise is heard. But as soon as the curds are served, normally the curds will be served at the end. So Sri Ramakrishna jokingly says, humorously says, but when the curds are served finally, then you will hear only one sound. Even talking stops because you can't take curds with your hands and talk at the same time. So the sound of sup sup from smacking their lips, Sri Ramakrishna tells it in a very humorous way that only sup sup remains. That means when you become closer and closer to God, the talking or the gossip becomes less and less. So one can say that Sri Ramakrishna says that nobody utters a single word when the meal is almost over. The feast over, the next step is to go to sleep, and then there is absolute silence. Normally after a heavy meal, people feel tired and then they go to sleep. So Sri Ramakrishna is using this example to say how as one progresses in spiritual life, his external activity, his external uh, manifestation, the rituals, the pujas, and the external manifestations of devotion become less and less. So Sri Ramakrishna says, therefore I say in the beginning there is lot of activity, but the more you advance on the path towards God, the less your activities will be. At the end, all work drops away and samadhi follows. Then Sri Ramakrishna doesn't stop here. He wants to impress this idea so deep so that people come out of the ruts in which they are moving. You see, people are so much attached to these things. If you see, people are satisfied with the ritualistic part of religion. So that's why they have Satyanarayan puja, this puja, that puja. So every time here when in the Vedanta center, if there is any puja, people ask, is there any puja? As if spirituality has to do something with puja alone. There can be other forms of spiritual life. But because we are gross, because we are inclined to social interaction, and pujas and other festivals offer us an opportunity to interact with people whom we love, people whom we like, or people whom we want to interact with. So it is trying to give a religious color to our social aspirations. We have a lot of social aspirations. Man, according to the Western definition of sociology, in Western sociology, man is a social animal. They never say man is divine or anything, because divinity is a far off thing for most of the people. They are very happy if they have recognition in society, and if they can move and mix with people as far as possible, with good people and with people who have some status. So that's the most people desire. So all these pujas, all these big festivals very often get reduced to some kind of ritual activity. So Sri Ramakrishna here is trying to point out that organized religion is not the best form of religion. When you become really spiritual, the activities become less and less. So Sri Ramakrishna till now gave many examples. First he said Vijay Krishna Goswami comes, and when he has not yet come, people are talking about him. There's a lot of talk, but as soon as he comes, they just want to listen to him, they just become silent. So also when you are singing certain songs, when the bhava deepens, the songs do not come out of the mouth. The external manifestation of bhava, which is singing, becomes less, and the focus is more on the internal aspiration or the internal feeling. Similarly, Sri Ramakrishna doesn't stop there. He gives one more example. See, this is his way of giving repeated different examples to satisfy, to convince different categories of people, so that they go away, whatever be the state of a person, he takes away some of the important things he wants to convey through these different stories. So just to convey one idea, that as one progresses in spiritual life, the external activity, the external manifestation of that becomes less, you become more and more subtle, and your activity is more on the subtle plane, in the mental plane, on the mental plane rather than on the physical plane. So after giving the third example of a feast where the sound decreases as the meal progresses, when the meal comes to an end, there is absolutely silent. There is absolute silence. So now he gives another example. He says when a housewife is pregnant, her mother-in-law reduces her duties. In the last month, she is almost free from work. When the child is born, there is complete renunciation of work. The mother only has to look after the baby. All the other household activities are attended to by the mother-in-law, the husband's sister, or his elder sister-in-law. Now this is a very common phenomena. So Sri Ramakrishna is trying to explain that when the child is born, or when in an advanced stage of pregnancy, the work is reduced and the mother is spared the need of doing any work, participating in the household work. The other say you take care, you have to be careful, so you don't have to work. So similarly, Sri Ramakrishna is trying to compare it with our spiritual progress. When we progress spiritually, as it happens in the case of the housewife, the child is about to be born. Till that time there is progress, and after the child is born, or after we have some kind of realization or experience, then we don't no longer have need to do the religious rituals like puja, like arti, and there are many other rituals which were designed for beginners by spiritual people, so that at least in the beginning, when something there is better than nothing. So after giving four examples, and after having impressed this idea so deeply in the devotees' minds, Sri Ramakrishna now comes to takes discusses another topic. Now the question comes, why do avatars leave? Normally after moksha, people don't wish to leave. After they become free, after getting samadhi, they normally end their life. They don't come back from the highest samadhi. Because that is the goal they attained. They don't want to be bound by the world. So, Sri Ramakrishna says in most of the cases, after samadhi, a person usually dies. But some like Narada and avatars like Chaitanya Deva and of course himself, Sri Ramakrishna, he says they live even after Nirvikalpa Samadhi just to instruct mankind. To give them that idea that I am validating the experience. It's not that Samadhi comes only to some people. If you are really earnest, if you perform the sadhana as I tell you, even you can get this experience. That's what Sri Ramakrishna promised Naren. He said, why can't you have the experience? If I can have the experience, you can have the experience also. But at the same time, others, after their experience, they just die. They say the body at the most may survive if one is a great yogi. Say 21 days after the samadhi, one reaches the highest nirvikalpa samadhi. So normally the body starts decomposing. Maybe in that high yogic state, they normally have observed that 21 days is the normal time. But even that has become so rare now. Not only avatars have become rare, it is so difficult to have an incarnation. We are lucky that we are born in an age where an incarnation was born who could live for many, many years even after experiencing the highest samadhi. What is the proof? The proof of Sri Ramakrishna's uh, claim or maybe or his advice that if you see somebody who can go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi and come back, either know him to be an incarnation or maybe a Ishwar Koti who doesn't have to perform sadhana, much sadhana to realize. They are already perfect by birth. So Sri Ramakrishna says, other than these people, other than the avatars and his others who come, Leela Sahachara, we call people who come to take part in the Leela of the Lord. So after Samadhi, normally all other people other than these, they die. But some like Narada and avatars like Chaitanya Deva live to instruct mankind. So they have a fairly long life if necessary to instruct the disciples and tell them. So Sri Ramakrishna's, how does one know that he could come back to, uh, he was one of those who after death, after Samadhi died. Most of the people who somehow managed to reach that state of Samadhi, they have to give up the body. But in Sri Ramakrishna's case, it is an observed fact that after Nirvikalpa Samadhi, when even Dr. Mahendralal Sarkar and others checked his uh, breath, heartbeat and all, they found no signs of life, sometimes for hours. So biologically, we don't see such phenomena in normal human beings. So he has to be an avatara or a great yogi for this to happen. But these avatars, they come, why do they come? Why do they, uh, after Samadhi, why don't they give up the body? It is just to instruct mankind. That is what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. After digging a well, he gives another beautiful example that after digging a well, most people throw away the spade and the basket. So earlier they used to dig with a spade and then put it in the basket and somebody would pull and the soil and the stones would be thrown out. But there are some people, so this is normally done, people just dig a well and then throw away the basket and the spade, but because they don't need it anymore. But there are some, Sri Ramakrishna says, who keep them, thinking that they may perhaps be needed by their neighbors. In the same way, even if they don't use it, they are so generous, they want to share it with others. So also, highly spiritual personalities feel greatly concerned for the sufferings of others. They are not happy to, they are not selfish to be satisfied with their own illumination or spiritual progress. They want to share this progress with others. And on the other hand, Sri Ramakrishna says on the other extreme, on one hand, there are people who are incarnations or people who come with incarnations who go to the extent of keeping their body alive just to preach or just to show that these ideas, spiritual ideas, are not just mere thoughts, they are real experiences. So, but it is not possible for all. And on the other hand, other extreme, there are selfish people. Sri Ramakrishna gives a very crude example, but it it is really literally true. These things happen. These things happen means if human beings feel that if somebody is getting the benefit, they feel so jealous that they do not want to do anything which will help others. There are many selfish people on the other end. They are so selfish that even inadvertently by your actions, if somebody is getting help, they would not do it because he said, why should I work hard and somebody else get the benefit? So they are intensely selfish. So Sri Ramakrishna said, such people, if you ask them to urinate also, he is telling a very uh, humorous example. He says, even if you ask them to urinate here under the tree or somewhere, they won't do it because it will do your tree some good. So everybody starts laughing because though it is a crude example, Sri Ramakrishna shows how human nature can be sometimes so selfish that even if it does not cost them anything, they would not share their things with others. Even if they have something to spare, lest uh, the benefit goes to the other people, they just don't want to share whatever good things they have. They would rather waste it rather than give it for free. So then Sri Ramakrishna tells another humorous thing. He says, if you ask them to bring sandesh for a pice from a shop, they'll lick it on their way back. I mean, he goes to the extent of saying that they know they'll have to give the sandesh, but once they have touched the sandesh, the little bit sweetness is there. Even that they will lick. I mean, they just don't want what he wanted to say. That selfishness is so rampant in people that the least amount of benefit happening somewhere which may have benefit somebody else other than yourself, your own self, that selfishness is a very crude type of selfishness. And Sri Ramakrishna says they don't even want to waste somebody else's sandesh, they lick their fingers all the way back, not desiring to waste. Though they did not get the sandesh, they will at least lick the finger which had touched the sandesh. So that is how misers live. They may have a lot of wealth in the bank, but they don't want to spend. And even if they get certain freebies, they will go run after that. That is why Holy Mother, once there was a famine, there was some relief work going on, and medicines were being distributed. So Dr. Kanjilal, who was one of the doctors who was serving in and giving medicines to uh, very needy and poor families who could not pay for the medicines. So there was a charitable sort of activity which was going on. So mother knew that some good work is going on there. So Holy Mother says she used to convey that idea that uh, this particular feeling that people, I exactly don't remember that special that particular example, but she would say, uh, I don't recollect it. Maybe when I recollect it later, I'll tell you. So anyway, that shows how selfish human nature can be, and Sri Ramakrishna gives so many wonderful examples to show. But the avtaras are not like that. They are not satisfied with their mukti alone. That's why Sri Ramakrishna admonished, and he admonished Swamiji saying that you just want your mukti. He wanted to remain in samadhi for a long time. He said, no, you are like a banyan tree. You are supposed to help many suffering souls in their onward journey to get mukti, and you are bothered about your own mukti. That is not a good thing. I didn't know that you were so mean-minded. You were so selfish. So, except for incarnations and really truly unselfish people, normally after samadhi, the body doesn't live. A person usually dies. The body doesn't stay for long. So, and Sri Krishna says there should be a special manifestation of divine power in some for this to happen. The ordinary man also, who has some spiritual experience but he doesn't want to share it with others, is afraid to give instructions to others, partly because he feels that it may not be correct, but sometimes it may be due to selfish reasons also. Then Sri Krishna gives examples. One of the reasons is their knowledge is fragile, and even though they have acquired some divine power, they know that spending that power, nothing will be left for them. So Sri Krishna gives an example. He says, old and worn out wood may float on water, but it sinks the moment a bird sits on it. A big bird if it comes, some light wood if it is floating. So ordinary jivas are like that. They can carry the burden of a few souls. But sages like Narada are like huge logs. They not only will float on water but also carry men, bullocks, and even elephants. So their capacity to help people to get devotion, to get moksha, is much more than normal beings who cannot even bear the weight of a single bird. Whereas big logs like Narada and other avatar Purushas, they float, not only float on water but help they carry men, bullocks, and even big elephants. I mean, lot of spiritual souls get mukti when an avatara comes. So we come to the next chapter now. Adrishta Purvam, M as usual begins with a verse. In this case, it is Bhagavad Gita 11:45. Adrishta Purvam ऋषितोऽस्मि दृष्ट्वा भयेन च प्रव्यथितं मनो मे तदेव मे दर्शय देवरूपं प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास. So this is the 11th chapter where the Vishwaroop darshan of the Lord is described. So the meaning of this verse is, I rejoice that I have seen what was never seen before, but my mind is shaken with fear. When Sri Krishna showed the Vishwarupa, his Vishwarupa to Arjuna, he gave him the divine sight, the divine chakshu, with which he could see the glorious form, the majestic form of the Lord. So Arjuna now is spellbound by his experience, what he has seen. So he says, I rejoice that I have seen what was never seen before by anybody. But my mind is shaken with fear because I think this vision is too strong for me. Show me that form I once saw. O God, have mercy. O God of gods, O abode of the universe. You are the abode of the universe. You can show me any vision. You can show me your Vishwarupa darshan. But somehow my mind is not ready. That is why Sri Ramakrishna used to say that if one is not ready and if the vision comes, they will not be able to grasp its importance or may not be able to bear the pressure of that wonderful vision. The body may simply break down to pieces. So here, Arjuna, though he hankering to see, he was curious to see the Vishwarup darshan, but when he actually saw it, he started getting a lot of fear, thinking that many people don't want spiritual experience because they feel that they will lose the world. The world is so precious or dear to them that they don't want spiritual experience, because very often if you try to have one, then you have to maybe renounce a little bit of the world or totally. You can't have both at the same time. So it depends how much of vision or how much of spiritual progress one wants to make. So here in this case, Arjuna wanted to see out of curiosity the divine form. But at the same time, his mind was shaking with fear. What is the reason? Because he did not want to lose his consciousness. He wanted to defeat the Kauravas, he wanted to fight the war, and finally there were so many worldly pursuits that uh, he was involved in. So he said, how can I give it? Oh Lord, you please go back to your original form. I don't and I can't bear this vision. So after quoting this particular verse has been given with a certain purpose in mind. Swami M is quoting this because the next topic is prayer system of Brahmo Samaj and talk on God's power and glory. Brahmo Samaj is a religion like many other religions. They give a lot of importance singing the glories of the Lord. There is nothing wrong in it. The glory, the power, and all those things become so important because they are attracted by the gross exploits of the Lord, though it is not very important. So the Brahmo Samaj, Sri Ramakrishna used to sometimes say, why do you keep on glorifying the Lord? Do you think he needs your praise? He's not like a rich man who will be happy if you go on praising him. That is what worldly people do, but God doesn't require your praises. You do it for yourself, but there should be a limit. And just talking of God's powers and glory is not going to make you more spiritual. So, the early story of his life, theft. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is giving this example how trivial he thought was worldly riches to a person, a true devotee of God. So, he is giving an example of a theft that took place from the Radhakanta temple at Dakshineshwar. Now, Mathur Babu, uh, now Sri Ramakrishna here now is talking to Shivnath. Shivnath was there. He was from the Brahmo Samaj who used to use lot of praises used to praise God or sing his glories in their prayers. They predominantly sing such kinds of prayers. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling Shivnath, yes, my dear sir, why do you dwell so much on the glories and powers of God in the Brahmo Samaj prayer? I said the same to Keshav Sen. One day they like to hear how you lecture. So he was invited and said, some people want to just know how you are lecturing because you are a famous lecturer, you've spoken before the Queen. So Keshav Sen was very famous as an orator. So meeting was then arranged in the Chandni on the Ganges Ghat. It's a big space where people normally come when they come by boat. They sit in the Chandni for some time and then proceed. So that portal was used, the Chandni portal, and a meeting of Keshav Sen was arranged. Thakur was very keen that he should speak. Later I said to him, he spoke so well that I went into Samadhi. And Sri Ramakrishna took the essence and then he went into Samadhi. Then later he said to him, though they were singing the glory of the glory of the Lord, Sri Ramakrishna goes into Samadhi because he doesn't hear the whole thing, but he knew that these people were singing the glories of the Lord. So he says, why do you talk so much about all this? Oh Lord, what beautiful flowers you have created, how you have created the sea, the stars, and the sky, and all those things. And those who love splendor love to talk about God's splendor. So if a king is there, he likes to live in luxury. So he thinks God also should be given all these luxurious things. So whatever we want to enjoy, we expect or try to offer the same thing to God. If we want to eat so many items, normally during Durga Puja and all that, so many items are offered. As our desires increase, the number of items also increase because we want to eat those things as prasad. So we whatever we like, we normally offer, so that ultimately it is going to be eaten by us. So that's how Sri Ramakrishna is saying, you people love splendor, you people think sitting on a throne and having create beautiful garden and flowers and the stars. They are the glory of God. God is glorious only because of this. God is uh, God is great only because of his glory. So also when Radhakanta's ornament was stolen, the jewelry which was used to decorate Radhakanta, that was stolen by some thief. And Mathur Babu was a little upset. He said, he went to Lord Krishna and said, "What kind of Lord you are? You could not guard your own ornaments. The robber could come and you allowed him to steal." So Mathur Babu said this, and Sriram Krishna scolds Mathur Babu. He said, "What kind of low intelligence you have? He who has Lakshmi herself for his handmaid, that is Vishnu. Vishnu has Lakshmi herself as his handmaid, whose feet she massages. How can he lack splendor? How can he lack splendor? Jewelry may be very precious to you, but for the Lord it is few clods of earth. He has created this entire universe. So what is jewelry for him? Fie on you! You should not talk so stupidly. What riches can you give to God? You may give him a very expensive garland, but that is maybe great for you because you value it. But for him, it is just as useless as a tulsi leaf. That's why they say patram pushpam phalam toyam. In Gita, he says if you even offer with devotion one leaf, one flower, or a little water, that is more than enough. I am not in need of all these luxurious and glorious things like wealth, like ornaments. We appreciate that, so we think that even God, if He is offered that, He will be happy. So we will close and see if there is some questions. Yeah, there's nothing in the chat, but if there are some questions, people can ask.